Congressional lawmakers in just the last 24 hours have apparently reached a deal to avert a looming government shutdown that was scheduled to start in like a week or so. They're gonna be funding the government for 3 months, okay? So our government can continue for 1/4 of a year, which I think is how advanced democracies should function. I think that we should have a total freak out every 3 months, and then, hey, maybe you have a government. But anyway, it is actually kind of a surprise that it happened because many of the forces involved in the dealing seemed dead set on grinding everything to a halt because they thought that it would benefit them, even if there was very little evidence that it would. And so there will be this deal. It will also, by the way, in addition to funding the government for 3 months, it will include an additional $232 million to boost security around the presidential election, basically money going to the Secret Service. And it greenlights faster spending from Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to aid natural disaster victims. And so this is good, I think, for most people. It is a setback for Mike Johnson and the Republicans in the House. They had for the last 2 weeks, and in a larger sense for months before, been really dead set on doing a longer funding bill, perhaps signaling a concern about how well they're likely to do in this election. But also they wanted to attach proof of citizenship requirements to vote in federal elections, because they look out at our country where non-citizens can't vote and say, not anymore, now we want non-citizens to not be able to vote. So they were willing to send the government over a cliff to make a thing that's already illegal. But anyway, and bear in mind, if they do this, and it looks like they're doing it, Mike Johnson worked with Chuck Schumer, so it seems like the Senate side is fairly locked down. It's kind of a thumb in the eye to Donald Trump because he had demanded that Mike Johnson include the proof of citizenship for federal voter registration. He said that if the speaker could not include that measure, quote, and every ounce of it, because legislation is measured in ounces, Trump would was pressing him that he had to do it, or else there would be some sort of consequences. And Trump's support for Mike Johnson has never been guaranteed. It's waxed and waned. And so what's gonna come of this? Well, Mike Johnson is trying to potentially get out ahead of any personal political consequences by saying to his caucus, while this is not the solution any of us prefer, it is the most prudent path forward under the present circumstances. As history is taught and current polling affirms, shutting the government down less than 40 days from a fateful election would be an act of political malpractice, which I do think makes sense. Like if they were to shut it down, it would hurt them before an election. It would be a bad idea. But it was also a bad idea a week ago and 2 weeks ago and a month ago when he was continually saying they were going to do that if that's what it took to get their citizenship thing. So his argument makes sense. It just doesn't make sense from the perspective of what he was saying a week ago, Francesca. But what do you make of this?
I mean, yeah, he's got to paint this as a win for himself somehow. I mean, I think it's good to not throw all of Congress into chaos and do yet another shutdown, arguably something that tanked voters' thoughts and approval ratings of Congress's job, and specifically Republicans, because they knew who was doing it, and the machinations behind the scenes, and the Kevin McCarthy and the Matt Gaetz and all this BS. Meanwhile, the government was shut down and federal workers were not getting paid. I mean, just wild. And so I'm glad they averted this. It is silly and ridiculous that we do this every 3 months. It is not normal. Other democracies do not do this. It is purely grandstanding. And yes, the whole SAVE Act, or the idea of getting some sort of stipulation to say that non-citizens can't vote, is ridiculous and superfluous because it already exists and it doesn't happen. The Heritage Foundation, authors of the Project 2025, they themselves found that there were 24 cases in 20 years of non-citizens voting. The Brennan Center for Justice found that there was actually 30 cases throughout all counties, including local, in an election year. And it was okay, 30 cases. This is so negligible. The people who get barred from and suppressed from the vote because their names are purged when they try to go vote from the registration rolls, like it's been happening in Texas, that far outweighs the number of non-citizens who attempt to vote. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. But again, it is about grandstanding. It doesn't have to make sense. It's not about real policy that actually helps people.
Yeah. Yeah, it has so much more of an effect on stopping people who should be able to vote from voting than stopping the people who can't already vote and don't vote from voting, that it's almost like that's what the point is.
Yep.
That it's just supposed to lower the total number of people voting because they are utterly terrified of democracy. Now, I want to ask you just one quick question. Was Marjorie Taylor Greene right? Because Marjorie Greene said, I think it was a week ago, and the Republicans in the Senate had been like, you better get your house in order and you better pass this. You be responsible, Mike Johnson. And Mike Johnson was like, I'm still gonna do the SAVE Act. I'm a big boy and I'm gonna make it happen.
I'm a real
And then
boy.
Marge, I'm a real speaker. And then Marge put out this tweet. This is classic bait and switch. Again, I know that I say this every time. A tweet that long would be too long coming from a clever person. When it's you, Marge, it is never justified. Stop doing it. But anyway, she says it's a classic bait and switch that will enrage the base only 1 month before the election when they find out they've been tricked and let down again. She wants the SAVE Act, basically. Johnson will not commit to standing up against the Democrats in a shutdown fight and will allow passage of a clean CR in order to fund the government because he believes a government shutdown will be blamed on Republicans and will hurt their elections. He is leading a fake fight that he has no intention of actually fighting. And she, hold on, I'm tasting bile. Everything she just said was right. He fake fought for it for an additional day. And then he started working behind the scenes with Chuck Schumer and he did a clean CR. And his reasoning is even the reasoning she said. Now, he's totally right that it would hurt them. And her political strategy is so stupid. Like it's not gonna happen. And the shutdown would definitely hurt you, you dumb little donkey. But she did call it right. So does she deserve some credit for her political acumen, which she's now gonna have to Google.
No, because she is positioning herself against Johnson on purpose, even though she knew ultimately that he was gonna go for a clean CR. I say motion to vacate or you are also fake, okay? Unless there's a motion to vacate Johnson, you have no intention of fighting Johnson and standing up for your base, okay, Marge? So let's go, let's motion to vacate. Let's motion to vacate.
God, Marge, this is a classic bait and switch. And your voters are gonna be so mad when they find out that you're just gonna capitulate to Mike Johnson. The thing is, she loves to impeach people, so she might well try to throw him out of his position. Remember, they can do it with like one person now. And so the reason we bring this up is he should probably be a little bit worried. I mean, granted, he's more likely to lose his speakership because they lose control of the House in a couple months than that they get pushed out. But even if he sticks around in power, maybe he loses it then. Maybe Marge was right all along.
They don't want to be in charge. They'd be mad if they lost the House, but they'd be so excited secretly.
Oh yeah, just more time you can put in your podcast or whatever. Is she still doing that? Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.